Thank you for joining us for getting started with eForms Wizard, where we will highlight a lot of the setup features that can help to simplify the use of eForms Wizard for your entire agency and make you a successful eForms Wizard user. My name is Kitty Ambers, and I am the Chief Growth Officer here at AVYST. And really my job is to build relationships and hear from our users and make sure that you're onboarded and using the tool in the most effective way possible. I also work with our dev team to relay feedback from our clients to continue to improve upon the program. So we will certainly invite you to share your thoughts and ideas and feedback and experience with us so that we can continue the improvement process. I have been in the industry for about 34 years and have worked with a lot of different software packages and programs and workflows. And so I'm hopeful that some of the insights I can provide you and I can be a resource to you to help this go smoothly for your agency. It is a pretty simple product and pretty intuitive, but we certainly want to give you as many tips, tricks, and shortcuts as we can. So today we will cover ordering, downloading, and installing your software, some setup things that you can do to eliminate even more keystrokes. We'll go over how to create a new client and packages, and then we'll talk about how to share both the password protected PDF and the AVYST fillable client folder as we work through the setup today. So just to recap what eForms Wizard is designed to do, we are working to replace the pen and paper at the point of sale, giving producers a solid digital tool that they can use out in the field without an internet connection to gather complete submissions so that we can get to market faster, get more business closed, and obviously improve profitability. As I talk with agents across the country, they totally support the idea that this is a very inefficient system that we currently have with all of the data we need to capture, all of the supplemental applications that result in a ton of time wasted with email back and forth and more questions for our consumer and makes for a less than stellar consumer experience. So we really are working to fix that right there at the point of sale. So that's what we're working to accomplish. So hopefully by now you are excited about having this tool on your Windows, either desktop, tablet, laptop, all the above, and making use of the tool to communicate not only with your production team internally, but with your customers externally. So that's what we're here to help you make the most of today. So if you have not already ordered and downloaded your eForms Wizard subscription, I encourage you to go to our eForms Wizard subscription page on our website. We have numerous partners, as you know, across the industry, and some of those partnerships and memberships have discounted pricing and even the bronze version included as member benefits for some of these organizations. So if you have not already installed your software, take a look at our subscription page and choose the option that's best for you. Once you have ordered your software, you will receive a welcome email from us. Our customer success specialist is Angelica Eilenberg, and she onboards people and answers questions all day, every day. So likely this is going to come from her, and she is going to be the one that's right there to guide you through any questions that you might have. It's simple if you'll just follow the link to the unique URL that will be in your welcome email. It will drive you to our license server where you'll be prompted to activate your AVYST account. And the login is your email address, your business email that we have on file. And The password is easily set. Just be sure you remember it, and we can always reset it for you if you need us to. Download that software. One little trick that we do want to share is please be sure when you're downloading, use the Control-C to copy the license key. Don't try to type it in because it's just too many numbers to remember. So use Control-key, highlight, use Control-key to copy the license key in those on-screen instructions, and then use Control-V to then paste it into the software, because on that initial launch of the software, you are going to be asked for your license key. So this is the quickest and easiest way to do that. Again, if you have any challenges, just let us know. We'll help you, but it's pretty straightforward if you'll copy and paste. So once you have downloaded your software, which really only takes a couple of minutes, you will have this logo, the purple A, on your desktop of your computer. Again, whether that's your tablet, whether it's a desktop, whether it's a laptop, this is the icon for the eForms Wizard application. Once you double click on that to open it, the first thing you're going to see is a very simple set of icons, and you can literally get started right away by adding a new client. We're going to get to that in a moment because I do want to walk you through a couple of ideas around setting up your software for even more effective use. But if you're in a rush and you need to get a form filled out and into market, go ahead and set up a new client right from the get-go and come back and do this setup a little bit later. So let's talk through some of the highlights of setup. So first and foremost, you want to set up your agency information because this will default on all of the forms that you create in eForms Wizard. Now you have the opportunity to create multiple branch offices and to even select a default office if you have multiple locations, but you maybe as a producer work with out of one location, you can select that. So very straightforward, very simple. Add agency. It asks you a couple questions about name, address, and contact, and you're off and running. And this information we'll see will default into each application that you do within eForms Wizard. The other thing is that you can multiple producers. So it's very similar in nature to adding an agency. You're going to add a producer. And again, if you would like to select a default producer, maybe you're an account manager and you're setting this up for yourself and you work with one producer frequently. Maybe you want to set that as your default. Very straightforward to do. You can always edit the information or you could always delete the producer if needed. Then the third area of setup is carrier information. So here is where you can add your carriers and their NAIC code to have that populate a form when you're actually ready to submit a particular risk to a particular carrier. So this way it's very easy to choose from the drop down and you're off and running. And then finally in setup, we have the ability to configure a variety of options. So where do you want things stored? The default is to the local machine. So one thing I do suggest that you talk about if you have multiple users in your agency, or if you are a producer that's teamed up with an account manager, maybe you want to set this client folder's location to sync to a shared drive of some kind. And the AL3 folder location will come in handy when we start talking about integration. And then the user packages folder, we're going to see in a moment that we can create our own packages of forms, and maybe we want to store them in a shared location as well so that other producers can grab packages as they need them, or as you onboard new producers and you don't want them to have to go through this setup, we have some ways to simplify that onboarding process. You can select colors. So if you'd like your errors to show up in a different color than red, pick a different color. If you'd like the focused form field, which means the field that's highlighted as you move through the forms, you may choose that, select a different color for that as well. And then the printed user entered data ink color. This is when we go to print, whether it's PDF or print to paper, you can choose the ink color as either blue or black. We're going to see that in our demo today, I have this defaulting to blue so that I can see the data I have entered much more easily in a digital fashion. And then over to the right side of this screen, you have different form options. I tend to leave the defaults, but if you would like to not have, for example, the tooltip display, you can uncheck that box. If you don't really want to be sure the right data is in the right fields, which I don't necessarily recommend unchecking that box, but you can. So lots of options to play with there, but the defaults are typically the most popular, and our users seem to be fine with the defaults. Now, one thing that this does bring to mind is, what is the tooltip? So as you work through the forms in eForms Wizard that you're using to gather information for an account, each field will have a tip for you. If you hover over, each field will have a tip that actually explains what should be going into that field. So if you're a newer producer and maybe you haven't dealt with an Accord form before, or a carrier unique supplemental application, and you need to figure out what the heck goes in a field, use that tooltip. Hover over and it'll give you a little clue as to what goes in the field. Once you have set all of this up, you have the opportunity to then export the setup file so it can be imported by other users. So again, I really advocate, if you've got multiple users in your organization, have one person kind of take charge to get these things set up based on your agency's preferences and way they like to do business and how they exchange information from a workflow perspective. You can certainly select which pieces and parts you would like to export. So you can select just the agency information, the producer information, the carrier information, and those configuration options, or any combination of the above. So once you have chosen what you'd like to export, you simply export it to a location, and then you have the opportunity to either email that file to someone to import, or you can simply have it in a shared location so that others can go grab it once they've installed their eForms Wizard, and they can then import the information that is available to them. So that makes for a nice, clean way to make usage consistent across eForms Wizard in your organization if you're not using it as a single user. Okay, so now let's talk about writing some business here. So again, when we come into eForms Wizard for the first time, the icons that we have designed are very straightforward and simple. So you'll see first and foremost the new client opportunity and adding a new client. Again, pretty straightforward. We don't ask for a ton of detail here. We know that you as a producer need to build a relationship with your prospect or client, but you really don't need to have to go into the extent that often is required for setting up a new client in a management system. Leave that to your professional service staff. So you have the option here to select a personal lines client or a commercial lines client. Remember, eForms Wizard has all forms for all lines of business in all states, plus a growing library of company unique applications and supplemental applications and whatnot. So you will choose personal or commercial. With the commercial, you can see we ask for a little bit of additional information because we need the company name. We also need a contact name, and then we need the company type because is it an LLC? Is it a corporation? That becomes important as we work with our new prospect. Once you have set up your new client, you're ready to start writing business. So you literally can go in and select forms. When you choose that select form icon, up comes our entire library of forms. So you will find more than 2,000 forms in here. So we've got to figure out how to filter that down and get to the relevant information quickly, right? There's lots of ways to do that. You can filter by distributor, and that will list all of the different companies that are in here. You could choose type of form. You could choose line of business. You could narrow it down by different states or regions that you want to be sure you're using the state specific form for. Or you can certainly always use the search box, which kind of works like Google search in that you type a term in and up come the forms that are pertinent to that particular term. So in this case, just for example's sake, we have used the term cyber, and you can see that there's a whole bunch of different carrier forms along with the Accord forms, different states all come up because cyber happens to be somewhere in their name that we searched on. Then you can easily select the forms that you want to pull into this client folder. So think of this as, printing off a bunch of forms that you're going to take out into the field. Well, instead of doing that, you're going to select them electronically, and they are going to create that file folder for you. When you open those forms, you're going to begin the process of populating the data that you're collecting. You will see that your agency and producer information, if you have set it up already, will already have defaulted into that form. Now, selecting an individual form or group of forms is great, but one tip for actually making even more productive use of eForms Wizard is to use what we call packages. So again, we shipped with probably a dozen or so in both personal and commercial lines. So when you click on that new client, the range of packages for you to select will change. But it helps you to know, okay, the type of risk I'm writing, here's all the forms that I need. So you're choosing that in advance, you're packaging that up, you're potentially sharing it with other producers so that you can have all the forms that you need for a line of business in a market, all right there, ready to roll. So in this case, you can see I've created a couple things that I like to focus on. Maybe some equine, maybe wineries. In your restaurant world, maybe you have multiple packages, one for fine dining, maybe one for fast food, maybe one for pizza shops. So you really can be real productive using packages. So we encourage you to customize your own, and that's, again, very simple to do. Use the Packages tab, select Create New Package. I do encourage you to think a little bit about the naming convention that you use when creating these packages. Maybe it's by line of business, maybe it's by a particular producer, maybe it's a particular program. So depending on how you're structured and who all will be using this package, give a little thought to how you name them. So then you're going to select the line of business so that they come up in that column there with packages affiliated with either personal lines or commercial lines. And you're going to create. And when you create, it is absolutely going to bring up that same forms library so you can go through and select. Maybe in commercial you always start with the 125 and you need the 126 and you need the 140, and then maybe you're going to add professional lines, but you write professional lines with 3 key carriers. So maybe you're going to select their carrier unique forms and drop them into your package. That is totally customizable. And you know what? If you mess up, go in and edit your package. Really not a problem to edit it and add or remove additional forms. And once you have selected a package, when you've set up a new client, you still have the opportunity to always add additional forms, because we know that there are cases where in conversation something comes up and you realize there's another line of business on this risk that you hadn't anticipated. That is not a problem. Go and open your forms icon and select whatever additional forms you'd like to add into that client folder. So very user-friendly on that front. It's kind of like having a briefcase full of 2,000 forms at your fingertips to use as you need them. So again, sharing is great because again, if you've got 10 producers on, writing a certain program, share that package. And then that way everyone is gathering the same information. And it really does, if you've got centralized marketing or an account manager you're working with, it really helps them because they know with confidence you're bringing them back all the stuff they need as a producer. So once you have created the client, we've selected a package. In this particular case, I have selected a restaurant package, and my account is actually Garth's American Bar. And you can see I've got multiple tabs here for all of the forms that I have selected as part of my default restaurant package. You can see that my agency information has popped in, my contact information has popped in, all from that initial setup that we did of agencies and producers and carrier codes. If I want to go ahead and get this to market, I select my little arrow box here, and it's going to pull up that drop down for me to then choose maybe which carrier I'm going to populate and send off for this particular submission or a version of this submission. So it makes it really helpful. So as I work through my interview and gather information from my client, remember these are live forms. So as you work through, anywhere that you're adding information, anywhere else in the form set that you have put together, that data is going to pre-fill. So I like to use the idea of description of primary operations because we tend to see that requested a lot on different forms. So get it right on the 125 and it's going to populate anywhere else you want it to go. However, if you decide, down the road you've uncovered something else while talking to the prospect, hey, maybe you need to edit this. That's okay. Wherever you are that field appears, go ahead and make those edits because you are going to be prompted on how you would like the changes to apply across all of these forms that are in this client folder. So remember, all of these are dynamic as you're working through them. So you can decide to apply those changes to all the open forms. Maybe you want to apply them just to a couple forms. Maybe you don't want to apply them anywhere else because you're working on an auto app and the vehicles are titled differently than maybe the client name or something. So again, you have some latitude here on how those changes are applied. Now, what we see when we add forms. So in this particular example I'm using, I decided to go in and pull in some cyber forms. I uncovered the fact that Garth's Bar was actually doing a pretty robust website, had pretty robust website traffic, and that said to me, cyber, let me get some information. So I grabbed a couple of forms in the cyber front, and you can see that when I dropped them into the account, anything I already knew has already pre-filled. So again, just a very time-saving tool and consistency building tool. Let's type it once and reuse it throughout the entire risks and submission. I do want to point out the ERMI glossary of terms that kind of follows you around. So you get into this kind of conversation around cyber. Maybe you don't know a ton about it. Well, notice that the glossary of terms is following you around. Maybe my insured says, hey, I don't even know why I would need cyber. What is that? Well, I have an explanation right here for him. Garth, cyber and privacy insurance is a type of insurance designed to cover consumers of technology services or products. Well, that's great. So what does that mean to me? He asks. Well, I can always select and get more information. I can get more examples. I can get cross-references all right there in the middle of the conversation without ever losing my place on the form I'm working on. So I really do encourage you to take a look at this tool, especially if you've got some new producers you're onboarding or you're getting into new markets. Use the glossary of terms and the cross-reference tool. It is very terrific for learning along the way. So you've gotten your information gathered. Maybe, this is something that you just quickly need to get to market. So you've been out in the field and now you're ready to package this up and get it to your underwriter. And maybe they've said, if you'll just send me the Travelers app and the 125, I can take a look at it and give you some sort of an indication. Great. So I can use this share button. Now, using share allows me to do a couple of things. I can select applications that I want to share, or I can share the entire client folder, and I can choose the format I want to share it in. Do I want to share it as a PDF, or do I want to share it as the fillable version? So in the example of me sharing it back to the office, my account manager can now pick up where I left off with all the information and add to the client folder and finish up the submission and get it to market for me. So that share button is pretty powerful. Either case, you're going to be prompted to password protect the client folder. You don't have to, it's just simply recommended. So you will be prompted. If you choose not to, you can just hit send without entering information and it will be fine. When you have selected to send, this is eForms Wizard is going to open your Outlook for you and attach a nice pretty PDF to your email. So all you need to do at this point is address your email, maybe even carbon back to the office, and put a little narrative in the note. You do need to make sure you're sending the password if you've password protected it. And of course, we don't recommend sending the password in the email with the attachment. So you may need to generate a real quick second email to say, and here's the password. But in either case, you're getting a real nice, clean application that's ready to go off to market. Now, I mentioned that you can also share the client folder. Sometimes it's a little big to attach to an email when you want to share the fillable version back to the office. So we can also always use the Save As. It works in a very similar fashion. It will open up the shared drive location for you. It will format the file in the .AVYX file type, and you'll be able to save that file and then share the information internally. That way, your account manager or anyone else who might work on the account can then import the client folder either from the email attachment that you've saved or from the shared drive that you have shared to or saved as. So either way, very, very helpful. Now, keep in mind, we know that eForms Wizard works without an internet connection. So you can do all of this that we've just talked about without an internet connection. When you do get reconnected, think of it as airplane mode. Your email will send and your client folders will sync up if you've done the Save As or you have set your settings to put the client folders in a shared location. So that all happens automatically once you do reconnect to the internet. A couple of other features to just mention from a navigational standpoint. You always have the option to open your existing client. Now, one thing that you will see is that your recent clients stay in front of you. So they're always there on the left. We know that you're working on an account, working on an account, working on an account. And so they stay in front of you for ease of use. But you can also always go look up your clients. And the other thing to sort of highlight is that you'll notice that the client information stays in front of you as you work through the forms. So if for some reason you would like to, whoops, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. If for some reason you would like to pick up the phone and call, or you need to shoot an email to this client, you'll notice this stays up in the top right-hand corner at all times when you're working on the account. Just, again, ease of navigation, ease of use for you. And then finally, we do have a print button. And so that would be used if you wanted to print a hard copy of something, or if you wanted to launch your e-signature solution. Most of those are set up as a print driver, so they can be installed right here, and you're not breaking away from your existing workflow regarding e-signature. Another thing we know about producers is, they get interrupted. They decide to, the client has to go, or they have a crisis, and you're going to have to reschedule. So when you close that tablet or that laptop, your stuff is already saved. What is really comical to us, anyhow, is that we have created a save and exit button kind of as a panacea button. It's saving all along the way, but the first launch we did about 18 months ago, we had feedback, where's the save button? So we have added a save button. So if it makes you feel secure, you can always use that save and exit button. Hopefully, I have given you a good overview today, and enough to help you get started. Again, if you have questions along the way, shoot us an email or give us a call. We also have a good bit of information on our training and resources page on the website. We have some quick snippet videos of different pieces of what we've talked about here today if you just need a quick refresher. And again, be sure to download the Getting Started checklist that's attached to this webinar to help you through the process. So I hope that this has been helpful, and we certainly look forward to working with you and having you make the most of eForms Wizard to get to market faster and close more business. Have a great rest of your day.